How we doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. I am by myself today. Austin and Rogan are both out. So back to when we started this thing. That's where we're at right now. Back to just me talking about sports. We got a lot to talk about here. The weekend preview. It is a great Friday in the great state of Wisconsin here. A little chilly out there. Got to say it. The wind could go away anytime now. The sun finally came out. We got a little cold, and the sun finally comes out. But that's about it for the weather as of right now. It's kind of blistery cold out there. I'm not liking it. I like the 40 degrees. I like the warm temps. Not so much what we got going on here. So with that, lots to talk about today. We got the NBA All-Star Game coming up this weekend here. Lots to talk about the Brewers today. Pitchers and catchers did report. So I want to talk about the Brewers. I want to dig deep into the Brewers there and just kind of some of the question marks heading into this 2024 season. Also, big weekend for college hoops. We got the Badgers in Iowa. We got Wisconsin women's in action, Marquette, with a massive matchup coming up this weekend against UConn. So we're going to be looking at that. And also just jumping around college basketball and seeing what's going on there. So right away, I want to look at the NBA All-Star Game weekend. Starting with, you got to start with the great one, of course, and that is the Celebrity All-Star Game. Team Shannon taking on Team Stephen A. Smith. That should be, the coaching matchup should be phenomenal there with Team Shannon and Team Stephen A. there. So Team Shannon, they have, look at this, it looks like 50 Cent will be a part of his coaching staff in this one. So I can only imagine what Shannon and 50 Cent will draw up together. It's going to be either one heck of a football game or it's going to be one heck of a single to release on the radio. That's all I know. So with that team, I'm looking at there and I'm seeing we have Walker Hayes. That's a notable on Team Shannon there. Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys. He will be playing on Team Shannon. Other than that, I should know. People will probably say that I should know some more of these people on this list. I'm looking at Connor Daly, race car driver. Dylan Wang. Not really sure who Dylan Wang is. He's an actor. I probably should know. I've probably seen him before, but he's also on this team. Annual AA, he's a rapper. I'm not sure. Kai Sinate, online streamer. I'm looking at some of these names here, and I miss the days of Kevin Hart and some of the other guys like that getting into this game because I'm not sure who many of these guys are. I know Micah Parsons is going to be a body to try and move. That should be an interesting guy to watch there for Team Shannon. Looking at Team Stephen A., he will be assisted by Aja Wilson. She's part of the Las Vegas Aces. She's a forward for Las Vegas there. On his team, we have Natasha Cloud from the Phoenix Mercury. We have Meta World Peace. That, if he doesn't throw a couple elbows or something, that would be an interesting one right there in Meta World Peace. Along with that, we have Jack Ryan. He's a basketball guy. They call him a street baller. That's what they label him as a street baller. I've seen a couple of his videos. Very impressive what the man can do with the basketball. I'll give him that. CJ Stroud from the Texans. He will also be on there. And Gianna Marco Tambera. I'm not good at names. We know this. You guys have known this along the way. I'm not good with names there. It's a high jumper. There. So definitely interesting right there. Meta World Peace is an interesting one for me. And CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud's going to be a fun guy to watch in this game for Team Stephen A. Interesting. I don't know. I guess I don't know if Micah Parsons or CJ Stroud have played the game of basketball in their life. I'm guessing they have. I'm guessing they are probably have played some basketball along the way there. So those two great athletes should be interesting. This should be a good matchup. I mean, I always enjoy watching it. I am used to seeing a lot more guys that I kind of know on either team and not really out of these two lists here. I mean, you guys out there have probably heard of more of these people than I have. I am not sure who Quincy Isaiah is either. Not sure who Quincy Isaiah is. People are probably saying, well, how doesn't he know who that guy is? I don't know. Maybe it's an older actor that was in movies a long time ago. I'm not sure about that. Adam Sandler? I don't know why we don't have Adam Sandler in this game. Dude's a baller. Adam Sandler would run this game. I don't know why. Probably because he's too good. They don't want Adam Sandler out there because he's too good. That could be it. Will Ferrell. I mean, we've seen him play basketball a couple times. Will Ferrell will be phenomenal to watch in this game. I don't know. I've never understood how they get people into this and why they can't get some interesting ones. They got interesting ones. Let's just go with that they pick for the Celebrity All-Star game. So should be a good one there. That kicks off the All-Star festivities there on Friday. That'll be a 6:00 on ESPN. They got it on ESPN too. It's going to be on ESPN. So definitely should be a good kickoff to the NBA weekend there. After that, just looking around here, I wanted to get into the slam dunk contest. Just look at some of the guys participating in that. That'll be on Saturday there, 7:00 will be the slam dunk contest. Jaylen Brown from the Celtics, Jaime Yak Jr. from the Heat, Mac McClung, G League. He's in the G League for the Magic. He will also be there. And then Jacob Toppin from the Knicks. So that should be a pretty good one there. Mac McClung's defending his title there. I like Mac McClung in this one, but I could see Toppin. I think if anybody's going to dethrone Mac McClung in this one, I can see Toppin. He's got some hops. Man can jump out of a gym there. So I'm going to go, if anybody's going to dethrone the man himself, Mac McClung, it's got to be Jacob Toppin there. So definitely should be a good slam dunk contest there. You never know what's going to happen. And then I wanted to look at the three-point contest before we get into the All-Star game itself. So in the three-point contest, we're going to have two Bucks. Malik Beasley and Damian Lillard are both going to participate in the three-point contest there on Saturday, along with, it looks like Jalen Brunson from the Knicks, Tyrese Halliburton from the Pacers there, Lauri Markkanen from the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell from the Cavs, Karl Anthony Towns from the Timberwolves, and Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks. So that, I like that. I like that group there. You always miss, I know Steph's going up against Sabrina, but you always miss Steph when he's not in that three-point contest because he is a crazy guy to watch shoot threes. So, a lot of people give Klay Thompson hate these days. Klay Thompson, very good three-point shooter. I mean, not as killer anymore as what he was, but Klay has got such a smooth, it's repetitive. It's just a simple, if you wanted to teach a guy how to shoot a basketball, you would tell him to watch Klay Thompson shoot a basketball because Klay Thompson's form is just impeccable. It's just great to watch. So, I mean, you think of your great shooters in the game in NBA basketball right now, and those are, I mean, Steph especially. But Klay, pretty good shooter in his own right. Not as good this season as what we've seen in the past from Klay, but definitely still a good shooter in that right. I think, Dame's coming in. He's the defending champ right now. It'd be interesting to see Beasley beat him. I know Beasley can, when Beasley gets hot, Beasley can ring him up. So, I mean, Beasley would have a good shot to be able to do it. I like Donovan Mitchell. I think he's a great three-point shooter also. I just got to say, if any guy is going to beat him and it's going to suck, will be Tyrese Halliburton. I could see a guy like Tyrese Halliburton stepping in there and beating Dame. It sucks. It sucks because he is from the Pacers and he's had the number all year long, but he's riding a very good first season in the league, and I could see a guy like Tyrese Halliburton taking this one. So definitely going to be an interesting three-point contest there too. I think it's going to come down to Halliburton and Lillard. I really do. I think it's going to come down to Halliburton and Lillard to see who's going to win that one. So jumping off of the three-point contest there, that'll lead us into NBA All-Star Game action. Looking at the East, headman over there is Giannis. And then they also, I'm not sure. I did not see who was going to replace. I would assume Bam Adebayo will replace Joel Embiid in that starting spot there, in the starting five. But you never know. It could be a guy like Julius Randle also. Oh, nope. Julius Randle is also out. So Julius Randle will not play in the All-Star game. So it's probably, I'm going to assume there, Bam Adebayo will get the start for Joel Embiid in there. Otherwise, I could see a guy like Paolo Banchero. I like Paolo Banchero. I thought he's played a great He's played great for the Magic this season, 23 points a game right now. I could see Banchero getting in there along with Adebayo, but I'm going to guess Adebayo will get the start there. Halliburton's going to be in there along with Lillard and then Jason Tatum. Like I mentioned, guys voted in for the reserves there. Bam Adebayo, Paulo Banchero, Scotty Barnes is an injury replacement, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, and then Trae Young will also be in there as an injury replacement for the East. Looking at the West, that's a little easier there because not as many injuries on that side. Luka Doncic, and then Kevin Durant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LeBron James, and Nikolai Jokic will be in that starting five. Devin Booker, Steph's coming off the bench. You don't really see Steph coming off the bench, but Steph's coming off the bench. Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Karl Anthony Towns. I gotta say, I mean, you look at the West, and you see a lot of older star power, I'd say. I mean, Luka's not real old yet, and neither is Jokic, I guess, when you look at it. But you look at guys like KD, LeBron, you have Steph over there, Anthony Davis, Paul George, Kawhi. Karl Anthony Towns isn't, I mean, majorly old, but a little bit older of talent on that side versus when you look over at the East there, and you have guys, Giannis getting relatively older there, but you have Tyrese Halliburton in there. Jason Tatum still relatively younger. Bam Adebayo, Paulo Banchero, Scotty Barnes, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, all younger on that side. So a lot of veterans over there in the West versus the East, I would say, when you really look at it. Grand scheme of things. But definitely star power will be elite in that NBA All-Star game. Hopefully a little bit more defense than last year, because last year I gotta say I stopped watching after about a minute, maybe a minute and a half of watching that game. I watched shot, take it down, shot, take it down, shot. I don't think I saw some guys actually cross half court to play defense or to play offense. It was shot after shot. It was ridiculous amount of, I mean, if you love scoring, that was the place to be. But if I want to watch a slam dunk contest, I'll watch slam dunk contest. If I want to watch a three-point shooting contest, I'll watch the three-point shooting contest. When I watch an NBA All-Star game, I want to see the East All-Stars taking on the West All-Stars, and I want to see guys who want to play the game. That's a big thing that kills me with the All-Star games nowadays. It's just like it doesn't really, it's not played for anything anymore. And I think that's a big problem. I really do. Because end of the day, I like when the NBA, when it doesn't matter the All-Star game, when it's in the MLB or it's in the NFL or it was in the NHL or in the NBA here, I want to see the best go up against the best, and I want to see guys who are out there trying, who want to win. They want to win the game. They want to win the game for a certain reason. I mean, look at the in-season tournament there. The Lakers, they hoisted up a banner for it. We should just make banners. We should make banners for the NBA All-Star game. Every player gets a banner if they win. I mean, I don't know how you get guys to try in this. A lot of people have always said, well, just give them incentives. Give them incentives. Why do these guys who make millions of dollars need incentives to play a basketball game at their full capacity? I mean, that's just ridiculous to me. You look at the NBA now, and it's like, yeah, the offense is getting better. Guys are able to read defenders. It's hard to defend guys nowadays, but you got to look at it as a grand scheme of things when there's a difference between unguardable and not playing defense at all. That's the big difference when I look at it. I want to see effort in the All-Star game. I don't want to see it turn into a crap show like it did last year for the NBA All-Star game. You get less viewership. I mean, that's the big thing. This is supposed to be the NBA's best going up against each other, and it turns into just a sloppy game of pickup basketball in the park where besides no fists are flying and nobody's getting pushed around, that's what this is. It's just fired up, and you're trying to impress the lady in the front row. That's about it. That's all you're trying to do in this game when you watch this. So, I mean, I'm just hoping to see a little bit more intensity in this. Doc Rivers is coaching for the East. Not really sure how that all transpired there. First, I mean, he's barely been with the Bucks for 10 plus games, and now we have Doc Rivers as a coach for the Eastern team. Whatever. I mean, whatever works, I guess. it was good to see Doc is going to give, if they win, the ring and the bonus to Adrian Griffin, because Doc doesn't really deserve to be the All-Star game coach for this season. So definitely interesting there. Chris Finch will be the coach for from the Timberwolves. He will be the head coach for this game for the Western Conference. I mean, Timberwolves played better last year than anybody expected, made the playoffs. This season, they're playing very well. And I mean, well deserved for Chris Finch to get in there as the West All-Star coach. So definitely should be a good one. I'm hoping to see a little bit more competitive game this time out. I mean, like I said, last year, disgrace. It was bad. I mean, I didn't look at the ratings for last season's All-Star game, but I can only imagine that it was terrible. I can't imagine it was a great viewership. People might have tuned in and out. I don't count that. That sucks, is that they get ratings off of, if you turn the game on and then you shut it off after a minute 30. I gave them a rating of one guy watched this NBA All-Star game. And that's what sucks, because I wish they could see how many people tuned in and watched it for a minute and then tuned out, because that would be a majority of the people that watched that NBA All-Star game last year. Just pitiful basketball. I really hope it turns into something again, because, you look at the NFL All-Star game, or not the NFL All-Star game, but the Pro Bowl. I mean, flag football now. And I'm not going to say I didn't watch it. I think it is kind of funny when you watch guys like Eli Manning out there and Peyton Manning coaching against each other. You have Ray Lewis on the sideline. And I still think guys try in the flag football game. It's not like they don't try, but it's just, is it football at the end of the day? I get it. I get it from the standpoint of you still want to play the game, but you don't want to risk people. But at the same time, the Pro Bowl used to be a game when guys got they got their clocks cleaned, and it wasn't even like for this big old deal. But nowadays it's, nothing. No want, no need to be there. It's just, I don't even know why they have it sometimes. I really don't. And I mean, the MLB All-Star game is still, I'd say the MLB All-Star game right now is the top dog. The only one that's really left where guys compete. Guys want to win that game. NBA All-Star game, I haven't seen defense in the NBA All-Star game in a while. And I think the NHL All-Star game is decent. I've watched it a few times. I don't think it's bad. But out of all of them, I'd say MLB is the best, followed by the NHL. And then, you know what? Honestly, I'd take the flag football game in the NFL versus the NBA right now, because the NBA All-Star game is just terrible. And I hope it improves this year. The last time it was actually decent was when they were playing for the Kobe Bryant trophy for the first time, and everybody wanted that first trophy. And it seemed like a lot more guys were trying in that game. Still really high scoring, but you're going to get that when you play with all All-Stars on the team. But something like that, something that you can play for in that game, and guys actually showed up in that game and played, relatively hard in that game to try and win it. So, maybe you put some kind of trophy on the line, some kind of MVP trophy, something else like that. I don't know what you got to do. I'm definitely not on the boat for incentives. I think incentives are baloney, because these guys are making millions of dollars already. Why do they need to make more? Why do they need to make more? I can't believe people still pay to get in the All-Star game. It's just to see your star players. It's not to watch a good basketball game. That's what I think at the end of the day, because I'm not paying to get into this game. I'm not. I can watch it on my TV and have the same feelings about it as I would if I went to the game and watched it. Yeah, is it cool? You get to see all these NBA All-Stars on the court at the same time. Yeah, 100%. 100%. But when you watch pitiful basketball, I can get that at a local high school basketball game if I want to do that. If I want to watch terrible basketball, if I want to watch no defense, anything like that, I'll watch anything else. But when I watch the All-Star game, I expect the best of the best squaring off against each other and a good game out of it. And that's not what you get with the NBA All-Star game anymore. So I really think something's got to change in that aspect. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully this season we see a little bit better of an output in that one. But with that, I want to get out of the NBA here, get out of the NBA All-Star weekend there, and talk about our first sponsor, Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. If you need some physical therapy, if you've been injured and you need some physical therapy, stop in and see the awesome crew there at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. They will get you right, and they will get you back to your sport, your activity, work, whatever it is. They will get you healthy and back and going. So with that, I want to get into the Brewers here. let's talk about the Brewers. Pitchers and catchers did report there to Arizona. So definitely great to see that the Brewers are back. We're getting closer and closer to the start of spring training, which means closer and closer to the start of the regular season. And with that, I want to jump into my first topic, which is how do I feel about Pat Murphy and Ricky Weeks? How will they do together? And, I'm looking at, I've seen a lot of interviews that they've done with Pat Murphy here. And quite honestly, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what I've seen out of Pat Murphy so far. The guy, I mean, down to earth, but he's going to tell you how it is. And we've heard in some of these talks, we've heard that he didn't always agree with Craig Counsell. He got into some yelling matches with Craig Counsell. And, end of the day, we need a guy, and to put it into lighter terms, we need a guy who isn't going to take shit. That's the big thing. We need a guy who's going to come in. You have a young team, right? A relatively young team. Outside of Yelich and Adames, and I would say like Rhys Hoskins on there and some of your pitchers and everything like that. But you look at the core guys right now, and you're going to get relatively young here. You have Sal Frelick, you have Jackson Churro on the rise. Your third base spot's still up in the air. We could see Tyler Black, Bryce Terang. William Contreras is still relatively young. This pitching staff for the Brewers, this season, looking like, barring they make some deals here, whether in free agency or in a trade, they're relatively young across the board here. So you need a guy who is going to he's going to show these rookies, hey, when we walk into this clubhouse, we're business. We're business in here. That's what needs to happen. We're business. If a guy is going to get out of line, we need a guy who's going to put that guy back in his place there. You want to have this clubhouse that's close-knit. You want to have this clubhouse that's a unit, but you also want to have some stability in there. And I think Pat Murphy brings that to this Brewers team. He's not as lackadaisical as what sometimes it seemed Craig Counsell was in that dugout. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not a firm believer that I wanted Craig Counsell to walk away. I for a while there wanted Craig Counsell back. But Craig Counsell's gone now. And we have to come to the realization it's time to move on, right? But this is a guy in Pat Murphy. He's an older style baseball player, right? He's a little bit older. Not this new generation of baseball. He knows how to coach it, but he is a relatively older baseball guy. And when I look at that, I think of the old where it was, we get a guy on first base here. We want to bunt him over. We want to push this guy on a second base there for the next guy up there to have a chance with the runner in scoring position. Something that when we had Craig Counsell, we didn't see was the bunt. With this rookie class in here now, Sal Frelick and Mitchell and Churro, even a guy like Joey Wiemer there, if he potentially ever, figures out his bat and gets in there. But Bryce Terang, and even a guy like Andrew Monasterio, you have some speed. You have the ability now where even in a position where you're looking for a sack bunt, you are now setting yourself up for an infield hit with those guys. With those guys on the base paths, you have the ability where now we can move them. We can move guys around. We still have the ability to steal the next base. We still have that ability with this speedy, athletic, young lineup that we have now. And you got some big boppers in there now, too. Rhys Hoskins, he gives you anywhere near what he had there with the Phillies. He's a big bopper in that lineup. Same with William Contreras. I like William Contreras because he's not looking for the launch angle. He's not looking for the long ball. He's looking to drive that right center field gap, and that's where William Contreras is deadly. I hope he keeps that because the guy's a phenomenal hitter. So, you got William Contreras in there. Willie Adames gives you anything. I'm talking like anything, 240, 250. That's a bat. That's a big bat right there. If he gets back to his power, he's had his power. It's just the average has been down. He gives you 250 with 30 bombs. That's another guy right there. That is a big bopper in this lineup. Gary Sanchez coming in. Probably going to be in the DH role a little bit there. Maybe. I mean, he's had some time at first base. Maybe we see him go there at some point. I don't know how the Brewers, if they're going to play a DH catcher role with him, give Contreras days off there. I'm guessing that will be a major factor in it. But I look at Gary Sanchez and I say, okay, this guy's got some pop in his bat. He gives you a decent output there at the plate. You got another big bopper in there. The Brewers offense, I think, is sitting relatively well heading into this season. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been able to say this Brewers offense has a lot of potential. A lot of potential. You think about it. I give you a guy like Christian Yelich. Let's just say Yelich. And Yelich gives me 280. 280 solid. I can live with 280 across the board there with Christian Yelich. Then you bring it to a guy like William Contreras. He gives you that 280, 290 output there like he was sitting last season. You have him, Yelich. Let's say Adames gives you 250. I'm not going to jump the gun and say Adames is going to be a 280 hitter. He's a career 220 to 240, 250 range hitter. So I'm going to give, if Willie Adames can give you 250, that's solid. Now you have Rhys Hoskins to back that up. That's a big bat. That's a big bat. If Rhys Hoskins if he's right and he's swinging the bat well, that's a 290, 280, 290 hitter right there in Rhys Hoskins. You have those four guys. Let's just say you have those four guys right there. Now you give me a guy like Sal Frelick. And if Sal, okay, let's just hypothetically say you give me the rookie class, right? You have Bryce, not the rookie class. They're now going into their second seasons, technically, not full yet. But you give me that younger core there. You have Bryce Terang. You have a guy like Sal. You have Garrett Mitchell, Jackson Churro. You have Andrew Monasterio in there yet. You give me those five guys, even a guy like Joey Wiemer. Let's add Joey Wiemer in there just for the sake of it. We're going to add Joey Wiemer. You have those six guys, okay? If any, two or three would be phenomenal, but two of those guys hit. You have six guys in your lineup who are hitting that. That's a pretty darn good lineup right there. That's a lineup you can write home right there. I like the Brewers right now because where they are sitting, they have the solid, I shouldn't say that, should be solid if everything goes right, top four in that lineup. And then you have the rookies to back it up. And I could see guys like Sal, Mitchell, depending how Jackson Churro turns out, how he sits in the minor leagues, if he's a breaks camp with the team, a guy like Jackson Churro, any one of those guys in the top of this lineup, you could have one of them guys at leadoff spot. Mitchell, I think, if Mitchell hits, could be a phenomenal leadoff guy. Sal Frelick, phenomenal leadoff guy for this team. Jackson Churro, strikeout numbers were high with Jackson Churro in the minors. That'd be the only thing that I could ever take against the guy is his strikeout numbers were high. That would be the only thing that deters me away from the leadoff in the lineup. I know you have guys nowadays like, let's just say Kyle Schwarber, who was a big bopper at the top of the lineup, but he did strike out a lot. He had a low average. Now, I'm not saying you can't go with that, but I'm more of a traditional guy. My leadoff guy is the guy to get on base, steal me a base. That's your Sal Frelick. That's your Garrett Mitchell. You know, one of them kind of guys, a little bit of speed behind them, but they're a contact bat. They're looking to get on base for you any way possible. I like those guys. Sal Frelick would be a phenomenal one simply because that guy's got a pair of eyes on him like no other. He watches some of the closest pitches and doesn't even take a shot at him. So I like Sal to potentially be in that top of the lineup there in that leadoff spot for the Brewers. But when you look at this Brewers lineup, man, are they good. Man, are they sitting solid right now in that top of that order there for the Brewers. I love the offense, and I love that Pat Murphy what he will be able to do with this offense for the Brewers here, because simply when you put it that way, with the amount of speed they have in this lineup now, I think Pat Murphy's going to utilize that to the best of its ability. I think Pat Murphy's going to be a very outspoken coach. I think he's going to get after guys, and I think that's going to be a great thing for this Brewers team. I really thought Pat Murphy was brought into the job because you look at how close this Brewers team has been, and you look how close the clubhouse is. And I think after Craig Counsell left, the worry is that the clubhouse would kind of become two-sided, three-sided, whatever you want to say. Everybody was going to get distraught from each other there. And keeping a guy like Pat Murphy, who has been there, done that. I mean, you think about it, bench coach. He's with these guys every game, every day. He's standing there with Craig Counsell. This guy has been basically groomed to just move over a little bit. Now he's the manager. I mean, that's the way I think of it. And he's got experience. He's been a major, or not a major league, but he's been a coach or a head baseball coach there for a while. He's been in the majors for a while there, now with the Brewers as the bench coach there. I like Pat Murphy. I think he's a guy who doesn't take crap, and I think he's going to give it. And I think that is what a young team needs. I really do think that is what a young team needs going into this season here. So I like the Pat Murphy. I like the Ricky Weeks too. I think Weeks will be able to get down to earth with guys. He's a been there, done that player. He came up in the Brewers organization. He's worked his way. He worked his way to the big league roster. Played great seasons with the Brewers. I think Weeks is a phenomenal guy to work with, Pat Murphy there. I think he's a guy who can get on the level with the players and come to reason with them. I think Pat Murphy's going to be the iron fist at the end of the day, but I think Weeks is going to be that guy who's going to be a little bit softer, but I think he's going to be able to help some of these younger guys develop and get into that major league role there. You know, the everyday stuff. He's not going to be the guy who's going to stand there and teach them how to hit. He's not going to be the guy to teach these guys how to pitch, but this guy grew up, was with the minor league system, came into the major league system with the Brewers. He's been with this Brewers organization. He understands the game of baseball, the ins and outs, the stuff that we don't see on the field there, the clubhouse stuff, travel, everything like that. Ricky Weeks has been a part of that. And I think that's a big thing to have with guys transitioning into that big league level, is to have a guy like that who can help them get through those times and understand what they're going through along that way. So I like the Pat Murphy and the Ricky Weeks combo there. Next, I have talking about the Brewers outfield. Now, it's loaded. I mean, you think about it, end of the day, this Brewers outfield is loaded with a lot of guys. I'm looking at guys like Sal Frelick, Garrett Mitchell. You have a guy like Jackson Churro out there. You have Blake Perkins, Joey Wiemer, Christian Yelich. You have a major logjam in the outfield right now, okay? So you think about it. Who's going to be my guys, right? Jackson Churro, he comes up to the major league level at all. He's my center fielder. You're not thinking about anything else with Jackson Churro right now than he is my center fielder of the future. Now, I look around the rest of the positions. I really think Sal Frelick will cement his way into that right field role. I like his arm. I like his glove. He can be a center fielder, but I love him in right field. I think Sal Frelick takes that right field spot. This is where it gets dicey now. Say Garrett Mitchell's hitting. You can't vouch for Garrett Mitchell to be on your bench then, because Garrett Mitchell, speed, glove, and arm are all in there with Jackson Churro and Sal Frelick in that outfield then. So I cannot vouch for a guy like Christian Yelich being in left field over Garrett Mitchell then. So then it happens, what do I do with Mitchell? Or what do I do with Yelich then? Because if you think of it from a defensive standpoint, your best outfield does not include Christian Yelich. Glove-wise, yes. Arm-wise, no. But when I look at the rest of these guys, Churro, Frelick, Mitchell, Wiemer, I mean, yes, that's barring Wiemer can hit. I'm not saying he's going to come back and just light the world on fire, but that's barring he can hit. The guy's got a phenomenal glove, phenomenal speed in the outfield, great instincts, and the guy has a gun, a cannon for an arm. So now you have four guys with Mitchell, Frelick, Churro, and Wiemer, if he hits, that are all great outfielders. What do you do with Christian Yelich? Because, yeah, if he's hitting, you got to keep his bat in the lineup. But how do you vouch for taking one of these rookies out then? So then it comes down to the fact of, do we trade? Do we find a trade suitor? Now, my untouchables. This is This is my untouchables. If you are the Brewers and you are looking at trading an outfield piece for, let's just say, pitching or anything like that. My untouchables, Churro, of course, Sal Frelick, and Mitchell. That's it. That's my untouchables. That's my untouchables out there in the outfield for the Brewers. Yes, Perkins, and that they picked up a guy named Chris Roller. I could see he's touchable. You can have him if you want. But I look at guys like Mitchell, Frelick, and Churro. Those are my untouchables. Those are the guys I want to keep. Now, Perkins, I think if somebody wants him, but Perkins isn't going to give you a big return. I don't know what you would do with Perkins otherwise. I think he's fine being a guy where you have him down in AAA, whatever it is. Joey Wiemer and Yelich. I know a lot of people are saying, why would you trade Why would you trade Yelich? I mean, nobody wants Yelich, and nobody wants that dump of a contract. The Blue Jays were talking about Yelich. They wanted a left-handed bat. If somebody calls the Brewers, this is just going to, put yourself in Matt Arnold's spot, right? Christian Yelich is making more money than anybody else in this outfield right now. The rest of them are still on rookie deals and everything like that. But Christian Yelich is your big money guy. When you paid Christian Yelich, he was your MVP. He was the MVP of the league. He was up for MVP. He was hitting 300. He had 40 bombs. We haven't seen that since. If some team comes along and they tell you, we will take Yelich, we will take his contract on, and we will give you this decent pitching prospect or this decent first base prospect, you got to let him walk. You got to say see you later, because right now, that man right there is my odd man out. He is my odd man out because I think, truthfully, the Brewers could live without him. I really do. I think if, it's all hypotheticals, right? Because we don't know what Christian Yelich we're going to get back this year, right? You might say, well, we don't know what we're going to have out of Garrett Mitchell. I never know what I'm getting out of Christian Yelich. I really don't. Last season, came back a little bit. Year before that was terrible. Not terrible, but not great. And you just don't know. You don't know what you're getting out of Christian Yelich. He went through that midseason hot streak, right? Where it was like, this guy's back. This is a Christian Yelich that we paid. This is the guy that we remembered. This is the guy that when he comes up the bat, I turn my TV up. I stop what I'm doing and I listen. Is that guy the guy who's going to come back here? He's bulked up in the offseason here, but they told me he was bulking up last season. Power numbers didn't go up that much. A couple home runs here and there, but nothing crazy. So, end of the day, when I look at this outfield for the Brewers, Yelich is my odd man out. And if somebody called and said they would take on that contract, I wouldn't even bat an eye. I really wouldn't bat an eye because I think you're fine. I really do. I really do think the Brewers are fine outfield talent-wise right now. Mitchell, Frelick, Churro. If they ever figure out Joey Wiemer, Blake Perkins is a solid backup. I thought he played some good games last year. I thought he played some terrible games last year. But I think Blake Perkins is a guy who can come off the bench. I really do. And you have guys scattered in and out here who can also play outfield time. Jake Bauers is a guy who can play the outfield. You never know what you're going to get out of him. He's another one of those guys the Brewers sign, and it's like, what are we really looking for here? Jake Bauers, first base, but also can play a little bit outfield there. Owen Miller, I believe, can play a little bit outfield, still on that bench there for the Brewers. So definitely, the outfield right now for the Brewers is loaded up, and I can see different scenarios where guys get traded. They get dumped off this roster, and that's just how it goes. That is just how it goes, and I would not be opposed to seeing a Christian Yelich trade at some point. I really don't think, end of the day, I don't think Christian Yelich finishes his career as a Brewer. That might be a hot take, but I don't think Christian Yelich finishes his career as a Milwaukee Brewer. But with that, I want to get out of there after that hot take. I want to get out of there and talk about our two more of our sponsors here. Your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy, Sue, or Anna to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell, find them on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. Also, Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. I want to keep in the Brewers here. I want to look at another topic I had, and that's Willy Adames. That's if I believe Willy Adames is going to be the starting shortstop for the Brewers. Truth be told, I would have thought if the Brewers were going to move on from Willy Adames, I thought that trade would have already been done. I didn't think we would have waited this long. So I think Willy Adames will be the starting shortstop for the Brewers. I don't know for how long, though. I don't know for how long. I could see him being traded before the trade deadline simply because you now have Joey Ortiz coming into the organization here. Joey Ortiz, he's a good prospect for the Brewers there. Not phenomenal major league levels. Didn't have a lot of time there with the Baltimore Orioles there at the big league level. 15 games he played in, 33 at-bats. He had 7 hits in those 33 at-bats, hit .212. Did have 9 strikeouts, but 4 RBIs, 1 double, and 8 total bases in that amount of time. So Joey Ortiz on the rise here. You look at his minor league stats, very, very good hitter in the minor leagues. 321 hitter at AAA last year before getting the call-up for the Orioles. Before that, he was a 284 hitter in that 2022 season. He hit 346 when coming up to the AAA level there in 26 games. 111 games at AA, he did hit 269. So, Joey Ortiz is a good hitter, good glove. Guy's got an arm. He can play the infield. He can play short. He can also, traditionally he's a second baseman, but he can transition to short. Also, potentially a third baseman. Now, it depends how they feel about you have another prospect on the rise here for the Brewers, and that is a guy by the name of Tyler Black. Now, Black is a guy where you could see it going 2 ways with Black. Black could come up, and you look him in the minor leagues, the guy got on base. That's the big thing when you look at Tyler Black. He's very good eye at the plate, very good at getting on base for you, and I think that's one of the things that the Brewers lack. One of the things that the Brewers could truthfully really use is his ability to get on base. You look at his walk numbers there last season, he had 88 walks in total between the AA level and the AAA level for the Brewers organization. He had 61 walks in AA and 27 walks in AAA. The guy's got a great eye. He gets on base. He understands the strike zone. That's something that I think is a lost art sometimes in this major league level. You watch that with a lot of rookies coming up last year for the Brewers. Right away when they came up, very patient. It was one of the things that impressed me most with them was how patient they were at the plate, not chasing a lot. Towards the end of the season, they started to chase. Tyler Black, throughout his career in the minor leagues, not much of a chaser there. He had 88 walks last season between the 2 levels. Year before that, 45 walks. So impressive numbers out of Tyler Black there at the plate. You look at him at the AAA level last year in 142 games. He had a .310 average. Really good number there out of this. In 39 games, 142 at-bats. He had a .310 average there. AA level, he was hitting .273 in 308 at-bats, 70 games. So still impressive work there at the AA level. This is a guy who's climbing fast. And I could see him. I don't know if he breaks camp, but I could see him breaking camp with the team. I think he's got a really good bat, and I think his plate discipline is going to be a big thing that the Brewers watch in spring training, and I think that might help his chances breaking camp there. His traditional spot is second base. This is where I think the Brewers have the ability to say, hey, Joey Ortiz, I think you have a little bit more arm than what Tyler Black does. I like you at third base. I can slide Bryce Terang if he does hit over to that shortstop position, and I can look at Tyler Black there at second base then. I think that is the nice potential that the Brewers are going to have is the ability to interchange guys around the infield there, especially with the youth that they have. But the ability to interchange and move guys around, find the best spot for some of these guys. Because Bryce Terang got a great glove, great arm, great range. I think he'd be a phenomenal shortstop. I think a lot of people forgot about him when we got Joey Ortiz because they're all talking about Joey Ortiz at shortstop. I like Bryce Turang at short. A lot of Orlando Arcia in Bryce Turang, and Orlando Arcia was a great shortstop. Just couldn't hit. Couldn't hit in Milwaukee except for the game 163 in the playoffs. He couldn't hit. I think if Bryce Turang can give you any kind of average, great shortstop in Bryce Turang. Joey Ortiz can play third base for you. Tyler Black can play second. Joey Ortiz can play second. Tyler Black can play third base. I like the potential the Brewers have there in that infield for guys moving around there. I really do hope, though, that they find a first baseman, a prospect first baseman at some points here, because, you're going to have this, we have this revolving door at first base. We haven't been able to have a true guy who's came up through our minor leagues. Prince Fielder. I mean, that's the last guy who we brought up, and that was the guy there who he was a mainstay at that first base spot for a while. Nowadays, it's a revolving door. I'd love to see the Brewers be able to lock up a guy and keep him in there. So I like that ability the Brewers have, though, in the infield to interchange guys there. Miller and Monasterio, I think those two are solid. I thought Miller kind of got shafted last year. Had a phenomenal start to the year. Kind of went cold there a little bit, like a lot of the Brewers team. And then Miller kind of got shafted and just got pushed out. Monasterio, same thing. I thought he was solid from the moment he came up to the big league roster. And then Josh Donaldson came in the door, and all of a sudden Monasterio was the odd man out. It's like, we don't need Monasterio anymore. I thought Monasterio was an instrumental part to the Brewers last season there. A lot of he's not a big power guy. That's the big thing with him. You didn't see him as a big power guy. Josh Donaldson brought a little bit more pop than what Monasterio did, but Monasterio got on base for you, and that's what I liked about Monasterio. So I definitely see Miller and Monasterio as good bench players for the Brewers in this season. So that's another thing I want to touch on there for the Brewers. One more thing I wanted to touch on, and that is we talked about the rotation. We've talked about the rotation a couple times now with some of these rookies and their potential in there. But the bullpen for the Brewers, I like where the Brewers are at bullpen-wise right now. You look at the Brewers bullpen, you're going to have guys like Devin Williams, Abner Uribe, Payamps, Paguero, Bryce Wilson, McGill, Milner, and I'm going to assume Joe Ross will be out in the bullpen there for the Brewers. I look at a guy like Williams, I say, okay, I got a solid closer. I look at Payamps, he gives me the same kind of year as he did last year. There's my setup, man. Abner Uribe, I thought Paguero pitched better than I expected for the Brewers last year in the bullpen. I like Paguero, and I like Abner Uribe in there too. I think they have one heck of a it's like a tag, or what do they call those? A fatal four-way, I think you call it. You got a fatal four-way when you get into the Brewers bullpen, because you got to deal with the likes of Abner Uribe and that nasty crap that he throws you. And then you got Paguero. Paguero, not as nasty, but the guy's got movement on his stuff, and he can ring you up. Payamps, I thought Payamps pitched phenomenal last year for the Brewers. Way more than I expected out of Yoel Payamps last year. And Devin Williams is a dog. He's a dog at the back end of the bullpen. I like the four. If you get to the sixth, let's just say you hypothetically get these starting pitchers, get you to the sixth, you're solid. You have a guy like Abner Uribe, Paguero, or whatever way you want to shake them two out there. You have the ability to put Abner Uribe in the eighth inning and be your setup man for Devin Williams. But then you have Payamps in there, and then to back it all up, you have Devin Williams. That's a gauntlet teams are going to have to walk through when they get to that sixth inning against you. I love what I'm seeing in this bullpen for the Brewers. Not to mention Hobie Milner and Bryce Wilson. Wilson last year, underlying unsung hero in the bullpen for the Brewers. He had good numbers. You look him up, he had good numbers for the Brewers there in the amount of times they had to use him in extended roles. Bryce Wilson was a great pitcher for the Brewers last year. I like having Bryce Wilson and Hobie Milner out there in the bullpen now. I don't know with DL Hall if he's going to break camp in the starting rotation for the Brewers or if he's going to be the bullpen. I don't know yet with DL Hall. But you don't put Hall in the starting rotation, that adds another big arm in the bullpen. Trevor McGill, I thought last year had his moments of failure, had some good moments. I like McGill in there. I think he's a hard thrower. He's going to be able to get you out. I like McGill in there too. I don't know about Joe Ross. I think he's just going to be out there for extended relief time. I think that's all. Joe Ross will be out there in that bullpen area. Other than that, I mean, starting pitchers right now, if I had to guess, unless if a rookie breaks camp with them, you're going to have Freddie. You're going to have Wade Miley. You're going to probably have Colin Ray. If DL Hall makes the starting rotation, there he is. And that Jacob Junis they just brought in. I think those five. I think that'll be your 5-man rotation right now. Unless if Joe Ross pitches phenomenal in spring training, they like what they see. Maybe Joe. Otherwise, a guy like Robert Gasser or Jacob Mizorowski. Carlos F. Rodriguez, I don't know if he's ready yet, but he's going to get some time in spring training. Maybe he's a guy that makes a leap. I don't know. One of those rookies I feel like I think we're going to see sometime this year. My guess would be Gasser first. I know a lot of people are high on Mizorowski. He hasn't touched. I don't think he was at the AAA level at all last year. Just let me check on that, but I don't believe he ever touched the AAA level as of last season. He made it up to AA last year, and he never got extended out past like 4 innings. That was his big. I mean, you average out, he had 21 innings pitched there in 5 starts, so about 4.2 innings there for Jacob Mizorowski on average. So, I mean, I just don't see him breaking camp right away. I think they're going to give him a little bit more time, but I think he will be up potentially at some point. I don't know if it'll be in a bullpen role. I don't know if it'll be out there in the starting rotation, but he will. I could just see Robert Gasser just because he's got a little bit more experience. Robert Gasser is still a good pitcher. Left-handed pitcher, got good movement on his cutter there. High strikeout numbers at that AAA level last year. I believe he was in the 160 range, 166 last season there at the AAA level. So I liked what I saw out of Gasser there at the AAA level last year. 3.79 ERA, 135 innings pitched, 57 earned runs, and those 166 strikeouts. That's impressive. That's impressive work out of a guy like Robert Gasser. So I would not be opposed to seeing Robert Gasser up there. Gives you another guy, a little bit higher velocity, and another lefty in that rotation. So I think Gasser will be the one rookie. If I'm looking for a rookie to break camp, I think he will. I think Jacob Mizorowski will be up at some point. I just don't think it'll be right away in this season there. So with that, that's about all I got. That is about all I have for Brewer Talk for the day. I just want to talk about one of our sponsors quick before we get into our next topic. Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply to get your team the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. But with that, we got to get into the weekend of college hoops. And that starts us off with the Badgers taking on Iowa. I hate Iowa. Gotta be honest with you. I don't like Iowa. I don't like Fran McCaffrey. I don't like Iowa. Never have, never will. This Iowa team coming to this one, coming off of a win against Minnesota in their last time out. They did lose a game to Penn State before that. Beat Ohio State and beat Michigan. So they did something the Badgers couldn't do, and that was beat Michigan at Michigan. So got to keep that one in the back of your head, though. Badgers coming off of a big, much-needed win against Ohio State after those struggling 4 losses there in a row. But Badgers back to winning ways here, coming in at 17-8 on the season here. The Iowa Hawkeyes coming in at 14-10. This isn't a bad Iowa team. Don't get me wrong, not a great Iowa team, but they're not a bad Iowa team by any stretch. You still have to watch out. You still got to be careful for this team. They've played some close matchups this year. They did lose to the Badgers early on this season by 9, 83-72. But like we talked about probably after that game there, the Badgers offense was at a high efficiency. They were scoring a lot, and we said what was going to happen when they got into dogfights. And now you flip the script here. We're going into this game, and Wisconsin's offense isn't playing like it was early on this season. So this is a different matchup for the Badgers coming into this one. Looking at this Iowa team, I mean, you're watching Tony Perkins. Tony Perkins is the guy you got to keep under wraps there. He's averaging about 15.4 a game right now. He's leading the Iowa Hawkeyes. Peyton Sanford's right behind him at 15.1. And then Krikke, he's averaging about 14 a game right now. You look at those three guys, and they're averaging all over 30% from downtown there, with Peyton Sanford being at 37%. So a good three-point shooter in Peyton Sanford. Also a guy off the bench there to watch out for, Josh Dix. He's only averaging 7 points a game right now, but he's 42% from downtown on the season there. So definitely some guys you got to watch out for if you are the Badgers in this one. Leading the team in rebounds right now is Sanford there, the forward for the Hawkeyes. I mean, you look at this game, end of the day, Badgers got to control the intensity in this game. Iowa plays scrappy. That's the only way I can put it. Iowa is the definition of what Big Ten basketball has been, and that is scrappy basketball. You look at this Iowa team, they got some size to them. I mean, Owen Freeman's coming into this. He's 6'10" on that roster there. Riley Mulvey, he's sitting at 6'11", the junior there. Peyton Sanford, 6'6". They have some height. But the Badgers were able to, in that first game, they were able to kind of utilize their size to their advantage in that game. Looking back at that first matchup the Badgers had there, Tyler Wall had 19 points in that game. He did go 11 for 13 from the free throw line, so that definitely does help you get 19 points there. But Stephen Crowell with 14 points. He was 2 for 2 from downtown. He got his own in the paint there. He was 6 for 10 from the floor in that game. AJ Storr also added 16, and Klesmit went off in that game there for 6 free throws, 4 for 8 from the floor. He had 15 points in that game there. Good news for the Badgers, getting a little bit of the depth back in this game. You're going to get John Blackwell back. That's going to be a big boost that the Badgers need in this one. The big thing the Badgers have to do, and it's going to come from the guard play in this one, and that is controlling Tony Perkins. Last time out against this Iowa Hawkeye team, he went for 25 in that game, 2 for 2 from downtown. He was 8 for 14 from the floor. You got to watch Tony Perkins in this game and keep him under wraps. That's going to be a big thing for the Badgers in this one. Sanford, first game out, only 9 points. He was 3 for 7 from downtown, but 0 from the inside there, any kind of shots otherwise. So you got it. Like you did in the first matchup, keep Sanford under wraps in this one. McCaffrey 0 for 4 in that first matchup. Just keep him as a non-factor. That's a big thing for the Badgers there. And controlling the paint there with Krikke and Freeman there. Last time out, both of them 14 for Freeman in that one, and Krikke had 10. Two guys that the Badgers have to control. This game is going to be about intensity. This game is going to be about the aggressive. Who's going to be the aggressor in this game here? Last time out, Badgers out-rebounded them 30-24 while getting 8 offensive rebounds. That's going to be a big thing again. Badgers have to generate second-chance points in this one. The offense hasn't been shooting efficiently in a while now, and that's something that the Badgers need to control by controlling the glass in this game here. Last time out, they shot over 50% in the game, 51%, and they shot 25% from downtown there with 2 threes coming from Storr and Klesmit. Otherwise, it was Crowell. They controlled this game in the paint the first time. I think you got to do it again. I really do. You're traveling to Iowa City in this one. This is going to be all about controlling the paint if you are the Wisconsin Badgers in this one. Getting it to Crowell. We saw last time out what the difference it makes when Stephen Crowell is playing aggressive, when he's getting the job done in the paint. Once again, you have to get the job done if you're Stephen Crowell. One of these, I came out of last game wondering one thing, and that is why Chucky Hepburn doesn't look to shoot at all. That's my big question. You know, a lot of people say, okay, Chucky Hepburn isn't a great shooter, and he's not good shooting the basketball. Okay, that's your opinion on it. When I look at Chucky Hepburn, I wonder why the guy doesn't shoot at all. That's my big question mark when I watch this guy. Because there's moments in games where Chucky Hepburn has a wide open lane, or he has a wide open jumper, and he doesn't even look for it. He doesn't even look to shoot. He's finding the next guy. I want to see Chucky Hepburn attempt some shots here. I want to see him put up shots. I know he can hit shots. We've seen him hit some dagger shots in games. I want to see it in this one here where Chucky Hepburn has a big game. We've been waiting for a big game out of Chucky. I want to see it in this one. I think, honestly, this game here, last game out, I went with Steven Krall. Krall's got to have a big game, and Chucky Hepburn's got to have a big game for the Badgers. Defensive end, he's burning. I mean, you look at it, and you can say, okay, well, maybe, Chucky Hepburn's burning a lot of gas there on the defensive end. He is. He's forcing turnovers. He's doing his work on the defensive end. That's huge. But we got to see it on both ends if we are the Badgers here. And I think having Chucky Hepburn out there, now getting John Blackwell back, I think that's going to help take some of the load off of Chucky Hepburn and help him out a lot. So I look for Chucky Hepburn and Steven Krall to be the big factors in this game here for the Badgers taking on Iowa. This should be, the Badgers, I am betting on a Badgers win. If I had to be a betting man today, I'd be betting on a Badgers win. There should be a good matchup there for the Badgers coming up on Saturday. That is a 1:15 tip, I believe, there. Trying to pull it back up. 1:15 tip. That'll be on the Big Ten Network there. We got off of Peacock. That's good, at least. We got off of Peacock. Should be a big matchup. Should be a good matchup for this Badger team coming up this weekend here. Also in action on Saturday, Wisconsin's women's team will be taking on 8-19 Rutgers there from, I believe that game is at the Rack. It's going to be at Jersey Mike's Arena there for that one. Badgers, Rutgers there. Rutgers, struggling team this year, coming off a win against Minnesota. Badgers coming off a loss against Indiana. But I like the Badgers in that one. I think the Badgers should be able to pull out the win there. The Lady Badgers should be able to pull out a win against this pesky-looking Rutgers team. Big matchup coming up on Saturday. That is number 1 UConn taking on number 4 Marquette in that game. That one's coming up. That'll be on Saturday also. 2 o'clock tip for that one on Fox. That's the big matchup of the weekend there. I'm looking at these two teams, and you want to look for 2 even match teams. Those are 2 even match teams. Both teams coming to this game. 5-game, they both winners of their last 5. Tyler Kolek's been leading the charge for this Marquette Golden Eagles team. 16 points a game right now. Cam Spencer on the flip side for Connecticut right now. He's at about 15 a game. So the guard play in this one's going to be huge. Also seeing what Iguodaro can do down in the post for Marquette is going to be big in this one. How do they control the paint in this game here against a UConn team who loves to utilize every facet of the game there? Karabon down there in the post, averaging about 14 points a game, and Klingon averaging about 12. You got some good post play. UConn's a well-rounded team. This is going to be a massive heavyweight battle on Fox between Marquette and UConn there. Should be a good game coming up at 2 o'clock on Fox there. Also in other action coming up this weekend, Northern Kentucky will be taking on Milwaukee in men's basketball there. That game will be from UW-Milwaukee Panther Arena. So a lot of good college basketball coming up this weekend there. Should be phenomenal to watch there. But with that, I wanted to get into some bracketology. Just see where they have teams positioned right now in the bracket. Just pulling it up here. Pulling it up, seeing what Joe Lunardi is telling us. The man, the myth, the legend, the guy who sits in his basement all year, and this is all he does. Isn't it a dream job? This is a dream job. You don't got to do much except for just predict. Predict who you think is going to be in there. So right now, on the bubble for Joe Lunardi right now, he has, in the last 4 buys, he has Butler, Boise State, TCU, and Nebraska. I like Nebraska in there. But the only problem with Nebraska, they can't win on the road. That could be the only thing that stumps Nebraska because they are a great home team. If they could play the entirety of the NCAA tournament in Nebraska, they'd win the whole thing. But on the road, not the same story. So definitely, I like Nebraska in there. Looking at the last 4 in, New Mexico, Ole Miss, Nevada, and Utah. I like the Lobos. I like New Mexico in there. I really do. New Mexico's been playing some fine basketball this year. I like New Mexico in there. First 4 out right now, Wake Forest, Gonzaga, Seton Hall, and Cincinnati. I think out of all those teams, I think Gonzaga. will get their way back into the tournament here into the tournament here. And St. John's, Colorado, Providence, and Villanova. That's a toughie. You're looking at right now with that, you have 3 Big East teams. Providence lost their, top point guard, top scorer, the guy who, in all reality, got everything done for him. He's done for the year. I was trying to find his name. Can't find his name here. Can't find his name, but I know Providence is down one of their key starters here. But out of all those teams, I like St. John's. I do. I think they play with a different kind of intensity. I think Rick Pitino's done a fine job in his first year. And of all the teams in the next 4 out right now, I like St. John's to get their way back onto the tournament bubble there. So I'd be going St. John's there to potentially find their way in. Looking at the regions now, I'm going to jump to the Midwest region right away. Purdue got the 1 in there as of right now. Looking at the 2 seed right now, Tennessee. I like that corner. I think Purdue is definitely deserving of that 1 spot as of right now. And then I look at a team like Tennessee, and they're a well-rounded team. I think Dalton Connect is a very good player, and I think that Tennessee team is well-rounded. So definitely no issue there in the 1-2 in that bracket. Iowa State's been on the uprise. They're sitting at that 3 spot right now. Dayton's all the way up to 4. San Diego State's sitting at that 5 seed right now in the Midwest region. Nothing else really jumping off the board there for interest in that Midwest region. Looking over at the West, I don't like this if I'm a Badger fan. Because the Badgers are in there. Arizona's the 1. Kansas is the 2. Nebraska's the 10. Alabama's in there as the 3 seed. Clemson's the 6. And Wisconsin right now, currently in Joe Lunardi's bracket, is sitting at a 4 seed. BYU would be the 5. And Texas and Mississippi State are the 8 and 9. I don't like that bracket side for the Badgers. I really don't. I would rather be in the side in the South with Houston and Marquette versus being with Arizona and Kansas. I don't like the Badgers against Arizona again. I don't like them against Kansas. I hate the Badgers against Clemson and Alabama. I think Clemson, very good. I like Clemson. I think they've been playing some phenomenal basketball this year. I like Clemson. Alabama's got some good guard play. I don't want to mess with them. Badgers, they don't do well with length. Arizona troubles them. Kansas troubles them. I think Clemson troubles them. So does Alabama. And I think BYU gives the Badgers trouble. So I don't like that draw for the Badgers whatsoever. They have to deal with UC Irvine, according to Joe Lunardi first. But I don't like the draw for the Badgers getting into that West region. Looking over at the other side there in the East, it could be worse. You could be in there with UConn. UConn and North Carolina is the 1 and 2 there in the East right now, according to Joe. Looking at the Auburn at the 3, I think Auburn's going to make their way up to a 2 seed. Auburn just the other night blew out South Carolina. I think it was like 101 to like 70 or something like that. I don't have the score up in front of me, but it was a blowout there from Auburn. So I like Auburn there to get a 2 seed at some point here. But they are sitting at the 3 spot as of right now. 4 spot in there's Baylor. South Carolina gets a 5. Virginia, and right now Joe Lunardi has Michigan State at the 9 seed right now in that East region, which is surprising for a lot of people out there. They did not see Michigan State getting in there as a 9. So definitely interesting right there. Oklahoma in at the 6. I like the Indiana State at 11 seed right now. I think they'd pull off the upset against Oklahoma in the first round. So that's the East region for you. The South region right now, Houston at the 1. Not a bad, I don't personally think Houston's that good, but Houston's in there as the 1 seed. Followed by Marquette is at 2 seed down there. Duke's in the 3 spot right now. Illinois at the 4. Creighton at the 5. And then we're looking at teams like Kentucky, Texas A&M, they're at the 7. Northwestern's got the 9 in there. I gotta say, I like the matchups for the Badgers better with the 1 and 2 with Houston and Marquette. if they got into that South region versus a matchup with Duke, Kentucky, Illinois. We haven't seen them play Illinois yet, but I can only imagine. Illinois has got some good guard play. They really good team there with Illinois. So I don't like that portion of the bracket. I really don't. I don't know where I'd like the Badgers to be. If I could pick and choose, I'd tell you. But as of right now, there's some pretty good mid-seed teams right now that I could see being on a 2 line, and I could also see them all the way down as a 6, but still potentially being scary, like a team like Kentucky, Clemson. I think Clemson's a scary team. They have a 6 seed right now in that West region. I think they're a scary team. Florida Atlantic at the 6, I would take them on if I was the Badgers. But I'm looking at teams on the lower end here of seed-wise. Even a team like Colorado State as a 7 seed. Colorado State is a dangerous team. They can shoot. They can flat out shoot. Alabama is a 3 seed. Alabama's got some great guard play. I don't want to see Alabama if I'm a team. I think Alabama's a dangerous team no matter where they are, whatever region, whatever seed. They're a dangerous opponent there. Duke's got they have work to do, but I think Duke, once again, is a very good team. And, you could see them anywhere from a 2 seed down to a 4, but they're still just as dangerous. Looking at the conference breakdown, 9 teams out of the Big 12, 9 teams out of the SEC. There's 6 out of the Big 10, 6 out of the Mountain West, 4 out of the Big East right now. ACC's only got 4 teams in there. Pac-12's got 3. The Americans got 2, and the Atlantic 10 has got 2. So definitely interesting to see the bracket breakdown there. Not as many Big East teams as I would imagine, and Pac-12 teams, ACC teams too. We're used to those 2 conferences being at the top, but now the Big 12, you add in teams like BYU and also Houston jumping in there. That definitely boosted up the Big 12 there. So definitely interesting right now. Coming out of Joe Lenardi there, I just wanted to get in the brackets and see what he was looking like. I'd love to know what you guys are looking at right now. Send me a message and let me know who you guys think. What region would you like to see the Badgers in, and what teams do you think the Badgers would have a shot against? Because right now, there's a lot of dangerous teams in college basketball. I think it's out of all the years, I think it's one of the most even that we've seen in college basketball. It seems like there's a lot of upsets going on in college basketball right now, and I think that's good. I think that comes a lot from the transfer portal. Teams are starting to even out, but it's dangerous. It definitely is dangerous. I'll take the words from Marcus Landry when he was talking to me, former Badger, and he said, it doesn't matter how good you are in the regular season. It just matters come March how you're shooting the basketball, and that is definitely true right there. So before we end her here, I want to look at the Big Ten standings before we go into the weekend. Purdue sitting at 11-2 right now. Illinois coming in that 2 spot at 9-4. Wisconsin at 9-5. Northwestern at 8-6. Michigan State at 8-6. Then we have Nebraska coming in at 7-7. Minnesota at 6-6. Indiana 6-7. Rutgers 6-7. Iowa 6-8. Then we have Maryland at 6-8, followed by Penn State at 6-8. Ohio State coming at 4-10, and Michigan at 3-11 right now. Kind of what we expected for the Big Ten standings this season right there. I don't think a lot of people were as high up on the Badgers. I think the Badgers are right where I expected them to be, was kind of middle of the pack there, and that's where they're sitting right now. So definitely within striking distance yet, but they need a lot of things to happen there in conference play. But with that, that's about all I got for the day. We talked about a lot of Brewer talk today, and it definitely is needed because we're getting closer and closer to opening day. But with that, we got a lot of basketball coming up this weekend. Badgers, Marquette, the NBA All-Star Game. Hopefully we see a good one. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here on Monday. But until then, deuces.